What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and the Doc coming back at you today, but we're doing it a little bit different. Typically, you only see Ethan when somebody's hurt. He's kind of like sharing bad news, or we're trying to get some better news off of a bad situation. But today, we're going to actually just talk some fantasy football with Ethan so he can do something other than some negative stories from time to time. So today we're talking about some deep sleepers that you can get in the double-digit rounds that you really need to target during your fantasy football draft. I gave Ethan some homework. That was fun. I said, hey, you're going to need to get some players together. You need to get some notes. And dude is ready. He has produced. And today we're talking those sleepers. Are you excited?
I haven't had homework in a long time, Jake.
But you've probably done more homework than most people in your life.
I've done a lot of homework.
I never did homework. I did it like right before class started. Like, you know, right before the bell rang, I was like scribbling it down, looking over my shoulder at somebody else. Like that was me in school.
It's okay, Jake. We know that you were a bum in school. It's fine. Look at how successful you've become. You're wearing a t-shirt that says the lone boner.
I mean, it is like the pinnacle of life, right? We have made it. All right, so before we dive into a few of these names, I want to throw this out here as just a quick reminder, right? Our draft guide is scheduled to drop July 1st, right around the corner. If you have not pre-ordered yours yet, get it now. It's over 600 virtual pages of all things fantasy football where we go super in-depth in every single aspect of fantasy football you can think of. So if you need something to dominate here in 2021, head over to the website after this show. But now it's time, Ethan, to transition into our players. So I'll let you do the honors. How about this? You come up here and you tell us who's the first deep sleeper that you're looking for here in 2021.
First deep sleeper, we're going to go deep.
Oh, like are we going like way deep?
To the 20th round.
Oh, most drafts aren't even going 20 rounds.
I know. We're going to start in the 20th round.
We starting in the trenches, boys. Dang.
Starting deep. Okay. I'm going to start with the tight end 1 for the Seahawks this year, and that's Gerald Everett.
I like that.
Currently going as the tight end 28 off the board. Let me tell you why I think that's ridiculous. Okay, the Seahawks signed Everett to a fully guaranteed $6 million deal. It's 1 year. This is a prove-it deal. He's just coming off his rookie contract. And honestly, we have to give tight ends more time. We want this instant satisfaction of, oh, this guy gets drafted and he immediately produces. And that just doesn't happen with tight ends. It usually takes the second contract. And with Gerald Everett, you have to remember, too, that he came out of South Alabama. Do you even know where South Alabama is outside of being in Southern Alabama? I certainly don't. So you come from a small school and you get thrust into kind of this tight end carousel. You know, they're basically in a committee with the Rams. So he doesn't break out with the Rams, but he does show that he's super athletic and he can catch the ball. And that's what we care about for fantasy. Other things to note, his new offensive coordinator just so happens to be his old tight end coach and passing game coordinator while he was with the Rams. I think those guys know each other a little bit. I think they do.
Probably.
Pete Carroll's already come out and said that he expects that Everett will play all over the field. They're going to use him out of the backfield. They're going to use him in line. They're going to use him out of the slot. And that was one of the biggest weaknesses that the Seahawks had last season, is that they didn't really have anybody that was dominating the middle of the field. I think Everett's going to come in. He's way going to outproduce. As long as he's healthy, he's definitely outproducing that tight end 28 price tag. And if you're looking for a guy that you can get on the cheap, I think Gerald Everett could be a tight end 1. And I don't think it's really that far out there to say it.
I mean, we starting off deep cheap is what we're going to call it, because I 100% agree. Russell Wilson has made the likes of Jacob Hollister and Will Dissly, some of these guys that you've probably never even heard of. They became fantasy relevant in Seattle because Russ loves his tight ends, especially once they get close to the red zone. We saw Jimmy Graham produce there in the past, but this is probably the most athletic tight end that he's had in quite a long time because he's able to do so much. I love Gerald Everett late, and here's the deal. If you don't take one of the studs at the beginning of the draft, more than likely you're going to draft 2 guys a little bit later and just hope that one of them hits. Why not have that second guy be Gerald Everett at the end of your drafts? And you never know. For a top 12 tight end these days, they need like 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. We don't need 1,500-yard seasons from these guys. So yeah, I love Gerald Everett there in the deep cheap is what we're going to call it. I'm going to go here with a name that I'm probably going to say this name, and people are going to go, oh, hell no, because they don't want nothing to do with A.J. Green. And no, this is not because I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan at heart. No, I put my bias aside when the camera comes on, except when it comes to Rojo. But here's the deal. AJ Green is not going to be what he was in 2015. If you come into 2021 and you expect 2015 numbers, you're overvaluing it. You're making that mistake. But right now, he's going as wide receiver 69. Which is a great number, by the way. Nice. But he doesn't have to do very much to outperform that number. He really only needs 45 catches for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns just to return value. I mean, that's less than Hunter Renfrow, David Moore, Rashard Higgins. They all had more than that last year, and you barely even heard of them in fantasy football. But it's almost identical to what we saw from AJ Green last year. Last year, similar numbers, 47 catches, 523 yards, 2 touchdowns. And everybody just wants to hop out there really quick and say, the dude is washed. Like, he's done, he's over with. And honestly, I mean, if you're expecting 2015 numbers, maybe. But if you're taking him for what he is, a sure-handed wide receiver that can still move the chains, get those contested catches. Now he moves to Arizona. They were the 6th best offense overall in the NFL last year. He's not going to get the top coverage because DeAndre Hopkins is going to get that. We know the air raid offense in Arizona is going to spread it out and create more scoring opportunities. And what risk is there in the 14th round? Like, none. What potential is there? Would I be surprised if he goes out there and gets 60 catches for 750 yards and 5 touchdowns? That wouldn't surprise me. That would put him right around the top 36, which well outplays the wide receiver 69 he's going off the board. So yeah, I think AJ Green, as a deep sleeper right now that you can get in the 14th round, that's a risk I'm willing to take.
I cannot condone these types of risky picks as the resident doctor of the channel, but I digress. The bar is set pretty low when we're talking about these guys at the end of the draft. So yeah. Could AJ Green, if anybody can do it, it's AJ Green.
And that's the thing. Would I take him in the 7th round? Heck no. Would I take him in the 14th round? Absolutely, because at that point, it's just a bench stash anyway. If you go into the first week of the season and you're contemplating starting the dude that you drafted in round 14, you drafted horribly.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
I mean, let's just be honest.
That's true.
It is what it is.
It is.
All right, give us another name, Ethan.
All right. We're talking about guys that we could potentially start often. When we're doing that, we want to look for guys that are an injury away. These are guys that are sitting in a wide receiver 2, RB2 slot somewhere. You know, they're in the depth chart. They're pretty locked in at that number 2 spot. But if something were to happen and that number 1 goes down, these are guys that are instantly number 1 waiver wire pickups, number 1 trade targets. These are the guys that you want to make sure you already have on your roster before the league's year starts. And that guy for me this year is going in the 11th round, Darnell Mooney. He's a wide receiver 2 for the Bears, going as wide receiver 55. And the thing with Mooney is he's going to give you some boom weeks. He's a deep threat. And last season, his rookie year, he put up decent numbers. But you have to remember, he's a deep threat that was plagued by probably 2 of, if not the 2 worst deep passing quarterbacks in Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. He's got new quarterbacks, dude. Andy Dalton can sling the rock, and Justin Fields is waiting. I won't get into who's going to start. It's going to be Justin Fields. Stop playing games with your quarterbacks, Bears. But when Justin Fields plays, he is going to be looking for Darnell Mooney deep, and that's all you need. You need 1, 2, 3 deep targets a game, and Mooney has shown that when he gets accurate targets deep down the field, he can make those catches. So, you know, when I'm looking for a guy that I'm stashing on my bench, I want the upside that they could become a top 24 guy if somebody were to get hurt. But I also want a stable floor and somebody that if I have to throw them in at my wide receiver 3 or my flex spot, they could hit. Darnell Mooney at any given moment could hit for a 60-yard touchdown. And that's all you really want from guys that you're just stashing on your bench. Hey, I'm going to throw him in there. Hopefully he gets 5, 6, 7 targets, turns it into a 60-yard touchdown.
I love it. Now, I've talked about Darnell Mooney at times for my love for him here in 2021. Now that I know that you're on board with Darnell Mooney, I have coined a phrase already for him, Ethan, but I need to talk to the people real quick, and mostly I need to talk to Taylor, too. So, Taylor, hopefully you're watching this video. We need a shirt that says, in 2021, we're going full Mooney, because I love the potential for this kid. Even with Allen Robinson, I still think he could have those big weeks there in Chicago. And even the days that, Allen Robinson really dominates, this is, like you said, a guy that in one play, in one reception, and 2 receptions can give you a solid fantasy day. A lot of people don't give him enough credit. A lot of people want to overlook him because of an inconsistent rookie year, but this dude is legit. He could put up some solid numbers on an offense that's going to be throwing the ball a lot too. The secondary in Chicago isn't that great. They're going to give up points. They're going to have to throw the ball consistently all year long to make up for it. So yeah, I love me some Darnell Mooney, but Taylor, we need shirts. Okay, we need shirts that says I'm going full Mooney in 2021. If you would buy one of those shirts, let us know down below in the comment section. Maybe if we get enough comments, it'll force Taylor to make said shirt. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the next guy here. So we've talked about some pass catchers, some ball catchers. I'm going to bring up a running back. And it's probably going to be another one of those names people aren't going to enjoy. But let me get through it first, okay? Let me try to see if I can sell the people on a deep sleeper. What?
Oh, I was just
you?
going to, interrupt you, but
okay, go ahead.
I will say that I'm impressed that you found a running back outside of like the top 7 rounds that's worth drafting, because that doesn't happen very often anymore.
Yeah, not somebody who is verge 200 touches every year. And that's the biggest thing, because Devin Singletary of the Buffalo... I know, stop, don't shut it off. Let me talk about him for a second. Devin Singletary is currently going in the 11th round as running back 45 right now. He was a disappointment in 2021. I will be the first one to admit that, but I would rather look at that in a way of saying maybe we overvalued him than him disappointing, because a lot of people had high expectations, including myself, for him in 2020, but the guy finished with just under 1,000 total yards. What really hurt him is he couldn't find the end zone. He couldn't score touchdowns last year, and that really hurt his ceiling on the year. And because of that, he's plummeted down to the 11th round. Last year, he was like a 4th, maybe a 5th round pick, dependent on your league size, but we've seen consistency from him the past 2 years in this offense. Both years, just over 950 total yards, 180 plus touches in each of the last 2 years. Am I really worried about Zach Moss? No, because Zach Moss sucks. I'm not overly concerned. Plus, the doc has told me that Zach Moss is what you would call injury prone. He is an injury risk, right? So I'm not on board with Zach Moss. Are you on board with Zach Moss?
No.
Okay, good. Anyway, it's a high-powered offense in Buffalo. We know they're going to be able to put points up on the board. It's a lot less risk this year because you're just going to stash him on your bench, maybe a flex spot when needed. Like I said, he's going off the board as running back 45. Even if he just does exactly what he did last year, he still outperforms that spot by 10 slots. I mean, the guy is definitely being undervalued, and I get it. I get the hate. I know that Josh Allen is the running back 1 in Buffalo. I understand that. But at this point of the draft, for a guy who's going to touch the ball around 180 times, I'll take that risk there late in drafts. Plus, the dude's been working out this offseason, and he is what you would call bulked up. I mean, I'm going to throw a picture up here on the screen. Okay, dude got big in this offseason. Hopefully you can force him into the end zone a few more times there, Ethan, because he can score some touchdowns. He'll be a pleasant surprise for people.
Yeah, he's a few touchdowns away from being solidly an RB2. So I don't mind it at all. But Jake, I gotta tell you, dude, I got this guy. We're talking about guys that are not sexy.
Look at this guy.
And besides Jake, there's some other guys that are not sexy that I need to talk about today. And what if I told you, Jake, that you could get the wide receiver 1 on a team in the 17th round?
God, I know where you're going.
Would that interest you?
Not as much as it would probably interest Kyle.
Yeah, that's probably true. Let me tell you about who I think could potentially be the wide receiver 1 on the team that you could get in the 17th round, Rashad Perriman. Now, I know you probably, when I say that name, fantasy players tend to get this like kind of gross, acidic taste in their mouth. Like, oh, I don't want to talk about Rashad Perriman. He's only let me down. But let me tell you why this might be the year, okay? You have to, when you're looking for these guys that are sleepers, you want to find connections. And one of the connections that I found when I was looking up who's going to be the wide receiver 1 in this Lions offense, which admittedly does not have a good wide receiver core at all, I looked at who's their wide receiver coach, who's coaching these guys every day. And that guy's name is Antoine Randall El. You might remember him. He played in the NFL. But an interesting side note is that Antoine Randall El was actually on the Bucs coaching staff when Perriman had his best season, his breakout season in 2019.
That's a nugget right there. That's a good little nugget. I didn't know that.
So Antoine Randall El, the wide receiver coach for the Lions, was on the Bucs staff when Perriman broke out at the end of 2019. And everyone was like, holy cow, I think he had like 500 yards in the last 4 games and was a league winner that year if you had him and you picked him up off the waiver wire. Now, the other thing that Brashad Perriman's got going for him, outside of the fact that he does have that connection with the wide receiver coach for the Lions, he's big and fast, dude. I mean, he is 6'2", he's 220. He ran a sub 4.3 40 when he came out. He was a first-round pick. And honestly, like, what are you looking for if you're trying to find? We don't know what's going to happen with the Lions. They have a brand new quarterback. They have a brand new head coach. You know, the Lions are a total crapshoot, but Brashad Perriman has the pedigree to be a guy that breaks out super late in his career. And so the fact that there's no competition, I mean, Tyrell Williams ain't really going to be the guy that's going to stop
Quintez Cephas
taking Brashad Perriman. Quintez Cephas, there's going to be some people that are going to be in the chat, in the comments, telling me Quintez Cephas is the dude. Here's the thing. We don't know who the dude is, but I know that Brashad Perriman has the inside track with the wide receiver coach, who is the inside track with the head coach. And I think we could see Brashad Perriman potentially be the guy for the Detroit Lions, which means he's probably ended up as a wide receiver 3.
The problem is not knowing who the dude is. It's that I know who the dude isn't. You let that register. The dude is not Jared Goff. And that's what worries me is the guy looks like he's like 3 crayons short of a Crayola box. I mean, he's just not there at times. Now, sometimes he'll go out there and he'll light it up. Other times he's just lost, and I'm confused that he's going to think he needs to chew on kneecaps at times. They're going to be shuffling in 54 running backs because they don't know who they want to commit to. I agree that Brashad Perriman has that opportunity to be the number 1 receiver in Detroit. Obviously, I think TJ Hawkinson probably leads them in targets. It'll be close, but Brashad Perriman is somebody who does have that opportunity, especially late in drafts. So as far as a depth add, I don't hate it because what's the worst that could happen, right? You draft Brashad Perriman, he turns out to be hot garbage, and then you just drop him and pick up somebody else from waivers because it wasn't that big of a deal where you drafted him anyway. So you're really not making that big of a risk. So I for that reason alone, I can see it. Do I want any Lions on my team? No, because one thing is proven in history, the Lions will always disappoint you.
That's true. Kyle will tell you.
Yes.
But I will counterpoint one thing on Jared Goff is he has a very good offensive line. And that offensive line, they took my number 1 tackle this year. They have another tackle that's excellent. They have a center that's an all-pro. I mean, this line could be just good enough to like keep Jared Goff in games and give him enough time to make throws. And if that's the case, like this offense, like I won't say it's going to surprise anyone because I still don't think it's going to be like great. But if he has time to throw, that doesn't, I mean, they're going to move the ball. They're going to move the ball at least somewhat. So I don't know, man. I'm just saying.
And I guess you could also say that it's the Lions. They're going to be trailing a lot. They're going to be losing a lot. They're going to be playing from behind a lot. How do you catch up when you're playing from behind? You got to throw the ball more. Okay. I mean, I'm starting to come along to it a little bit more. I don't love it.
Fantasy teams can still produce good fantasy players.
And then maybe he comes out there really hot the first couple of weeks and you flip him to the stupidest person in your league.
That's right.
So I'm going to draft him and then I'm going to send you an offer.
Hey.
That's okay. I had to throw it in there. But here's what's fun about this. And me and Ethan were talking about sleepers before we got on here. There's a lot of names that we could throw into shows like this. A lot of people have a lot of names that they're looking at in the double-digit rounds. And we literally probably could have talked about 50 people here today. But we're trying to keep it a little bit lower so the view time is not so huge for you guys. We know you like those quick hitting videos. But here's what we want to do. Throw some names down below in the comment section that you're targeting in double-digit rounds. If we see a lot of the same name popping up in the comments, because yes, we do go through all the comments, we'll put them into future episodes so you can get the information you need to make your decisions a little bit easier. Do us a favor though, hit that like button. If we can hit, 500 likes on this video, you'll make Ethan very, very happy. And that's what we need to do. In times like this, is just do what we can for Ethan. Because, let's put Ethan out there. Let's see if he can get some love from the community here on this video. One of his first, without some bad news. So that's a good job, Ethan. Congratulations. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. For the doc and for myself, hopefully you enjoyed a few of these deep sleepers. And like I said, leave those comments down below. We'll be going through them as they come in here on the channel. But hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great weekend. Happy Father's Day out there to all the fathers, and we'll talk to you later.